Is this thing on? Hello? Hello? Whatever. Is this thing on? Hello? Hello? Whatever. Live. What is up, guys? It's Alex Johnson here, the founder and lead analyst at yardsperfantasy.com. Welcome into the 131st episode of the Feed Me Fantasy podcast. Let's eat. So the Green Bay Packers have to be the weirdest franchise in the NFL. Am I right? Like, what is going on? We know, everybody in the world knew the Packers need wide receivers. And there are several wide receivers that are absolutely available. It's not a secret that they were available at the trade deadline. Chase Claypool, Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Cooks. I mean, hell, even the Patriots with Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar, those guys would have been upgrades over what the Packers have. And yet, the Packers, the trade deadline day, they just sitting on the hands, twiddling their thumbs. Nothing. The Bears know. The Bears, even the most incompetent franchise in the NFL, the Chicago Bears, they know that they need to give their young quarterback, their young ascending quarterback, a weapon in the passing game. Even they made a move. And yet the Packers just sitting here with their Hall of Fame quarterback who, Father Time, the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking on Father Time for Aaron Rodgers. And they just sit there and they stick him with Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Sammy freaking Watkins. What are you doing? And the funny thing is, I don't even think that the Packers front office is necessarily like a bunch of goons. They're not a bunch of morons. I think they know what they're doing to a degree. They just choose not to do it. We have these franchises, like the Bears, where the front office is just a bunch of knuckleheads. The Packers have at least a little bit of a brain, and yet they just refuse to use it. That's what makes them so freaking weird. That's what makes them so frustrating. Because, we can laugh at the bad franchises. Yeah, we know they suck. We know they're a bunch of morons. That's what we expect. But then the Packers, they just sit here and do absolutely nothing. Nothing. Wasting away Aaron Rodgers. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. Why? What's the point? What is the point? What's the point of doing it all? Why? Why even have a franchise? Why? That's my question. Why? I don't understand it. But that's my rant for the day. The Packers are the weirdest fucking franchise in the NFL. But today, like usual, we're here not to talk about the Packers, We're here to talk about ads, drops, buys, and sells for week 9. And we'll also take some questions at the end of the show. So stick around if you're on YouTube and TikTok. I'll answer some questions at the end of the show. But before we get too far into things, let me remind you to get on Underdog Fantasy and start to draft weekly teams. Yes, you can draft a new team, a brand new team. Brand new team every single week on Underdog Fantasy. Your regular teams, they suck. You have a bunch of buys this week. Your team, you're kind of depressed about your team, your lineup this week. It's week 9, 6 teams on a buy. Go to Underdog. It's basically DFS in snake draft form. Or you can play their pick'ems where you take the overs or unders on player props for your favorite players. When you sign up on Underdog, use promo code YARDSPER to get a $100 deposit match. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com, download the Underdog Fantasy app, use that promo code YARDSPER. And you can also use that same promo code YARDSPER to get a 125% deposit bonus on BetUS if you're into sports betting. Just sign up, use promo code YARDSPER, get your free money, start betting. Easy as that. Let's get to the show. We're going to start with a sell today, and that's Kyle Pitts. We've been waiting for Kyle Pitts to do something. Anything, Kyle Pitts. Come on. And it finally happened in week 8 when he caught 5 of his 9 targets for 80 yards and a touchdown. While the target share numbers have been good all season, the lack of passing volume in the Atlanta offense has been what's holding Pitts down. Against the Panthers, though, Marcus Mariota, he passed a whole 28 times. His highest total since week 1. And just the fourth time that he went over 20 attempts on the season. That is disgusting. It's 2022. And teams are still passing less than 20 times a game. It's insane. But as good as Pitts is, he can not reliably put up these types of performances in an offense that suppresses its quarterback to the degree that the Falcons do. So if anyone in your league is a Pitts stan, or they believe that this could be the beginning of a turnaround, I really recommend that you cash out. Now let's go to the waiver wire. Got a couple players I want to talk about for the waiver wire. The first is Jaylen Warren. Najee Harris isn't right. He just isn't right. Whether it's the foot or what I'm worried about is he just might be this generation's Trent Richardson. Either way, something is off with Najee Harris. Meanwhile, Jaylen Warren, the undrafted rookie, he continues to outproduce Najee Harris on fewer touches. And it happened again in week 8 when Warren ran for 50 yards on 6 carries, while Najee Harris barely topped 30 yards on 8 attempts. If this keeps up, Jaylen Warren's role will continue to grow. And there may come a point where the Steelers decide to rest Najee Harris altogether. Now, however it may happen, Jaylen Warren needs to be added and stashed in all leagues. He would be a weekly starter if he ever either leapfrogs Harris, or they decide to sit Harris, or the foot flares up again. You gotta roster Jaylen Warren. So sticking on the waiver wire, I want you to also add Terrace Marshall. I can't believe it. I can't believe I'm saying it. I want you to add Terrace Marshall. We have to acknowledge what has been happening with Terrace Marshall. His snaps, his routes, his target shares, they've all been rising over the last 4 weeks. And it all came together in week 8 when he had a 92% snap share, 25% target share, and a 95% route participation rate. And the results were 4 receptions for 87 yards. And he was this close to scoring a touchdown. With Robbie Anderson shipped to Arizona and PJ Walker installed as the Panthers starting quarterback for the rest of the season, the path has been paved for Terrace Marshall to break out. It's happening, people. It's happening. It's happening. We wrote him off, but here we are. It's happening. So back to the trade market. I want you to sell. I'm doing another sell. Don't worry, we'll get to some buys. Don't you worry. But this one, I want you to sell David Montgomery. The Bears may finally be realizing what everybody else in the universe has known for a freaking year, that Khalil Herbert is their best running back. Herbert has been getting more opportunities in recent weeks, and in fact, he's had double-digit carries in each of the last 2 games. On both occasions, he outproduced or equaled David Montgomery's production on fewer touches. It's the same thing we said about Jaylen Warren. And if this continues, David Montgomery is going to be increasingly touchdown dependent in an offense that is hard to trust already for points. And when they are running it in, it's oftentimes Justin Fields calling his own number, so he's taken away some of the touchdowns anyway. So I am absolutely selling David Montgomery if I can. It might be too late. We talked about Montgomery as a sell like week 2. Week 3, early in the season, we were talking about David Montgomery as a sell. I got laughed at, and here we are. It might be too late, but if I can get some value for David Montgomery, if he's still hanging on any of my rosters, I am selling right now. Another guy that I am selling is D'Onta Foreman. Now, I know, D'Onta Foreman just had the performance of his life in week 8. And I'm not one of those to just snap and say, oh, a guy has a great performance, sell. No. There's more to it than that. There's more to it. I know he ran for 118 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. That's beautiful. But that was against a bad Falcons defense and while operating without Chuba Hubbard. That's big. That's the key to this. Chuba Hubbard, he started and led the way in week 7 before his ankle injury. And we can expect Hubbard will have a sizable role when he returns and will be the primary option in passing situations. And plus, let's not forget, this is still the Panthers offense. It's still the Panthers. I know they're better with PJ Walker at quarterback. It's still PJ Walker. Okay. Let's not get too crazy here. We can't expect 34 points from this team every week. So I'm selling high on D'Onta Foreman before he crashes back down to earth. All right. We did ads. We did some sells. But who are we buying? That's the fun stuff. Who are we buying in week 9? I have a few buys for you. The first one is DJ Moore, sticking with the Panthers. We're going the other way. DJ Moore is back. Breaking news. DJ Moore is back. Apparently, all it took was PJ Walker to unlock him. Who would have thought? That our hero would be PJ Walker? DJ Moore was the target on 10, which was 45% of Walker's attempts in week 7. And then he followed that up with another 11 targets and a 31% target share in week 8. Moore took advantage to combine for 13 receptions for 221 yards and 2 touchdowns over those 2 weeks. The crazy thing is, that's after combining for 174 yards in the first 6 weeks. 6 weeks with Baker Mayfield, 174 yards. 2 games with PJ Walker, 221 and 2 touchdowns. And more than half the receptions that he had in those 6 games. Walker should absolutely continue to lock in on his top target, which makes DJ Moore an excellent buy at wide receiver, even if you're buying high in week 9. Another wide receiver I want you to buy this week, and it might be easier to buy him right now. This is the absolute best time to buy him because he's on a bye week. Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's on a bye, one of those 6 teams that's on a bye in week 9. And I've been talking about Donovan Peoples-Jones for weeks in the weekly Fab guidance article that I do on the Yards Per Fantasy Patreon. That's a big, big, big reason to get on Patreon because, yeah, I talk about a lot of my guys for free on this show, or I make TikTok videos or YouTube videos or write articles. But some of it, like Donovan Peoples-Jones, has been stored away on Patreon in that Fab guidance article that I do every single week. So the patrons, our Yards Per patrons, they all have Donovan Peoples-Jones. They know. They know what's going on. They know what's going on. They're up to date. But Donovan Peoples-Jones, he has topped 70 yards in 4 of the last 5 games. He's getting the air yards, and the targets have been mostly consistent as well. While he's been a fine wide receiver 4 flex play for you, the real reason we've been stashing him and now actively trying to buy him or pick him up if he's still available on waivers is the nearing return of Deshaun Watson. Watson is going to turn up the notch on what is an already good Cleveland offense. He's going to open up more explosive plays and scoring opportunities. That's going to be particularly good for Donovan Peoples-Jones, could be the Will Fuller of the Browns offense. He could have week winning performances during the fantasy playoffs. His price is only going to keep rising, so go get Donovan Peoples-Jones right now. All right, so we talk about some ads, talks about some buys and sells, but if you're adding players off the waiver wire, there have to be players naturally that were dropped, right? So one of the players it's okay to drop, I'm giving you permission to drop, is Paris Campbell. I probably don't need to tell you that. But Paris Campbell, yeah, full permission to drop him. He had those few good weeks, but it's over. Time is over. And I talked about the impact of Indianapolis's quarterback change on last week's Dead Zone show, which I do Saturday nights, usually around 9 o'clock Eastern time, maybe a little bit later. We do it for about an hour or so, mainly just answering your questions. And I talked about Paris Campbell. During that discussion, I talked about why I was particularly concerned about 2 players, not just Paris Campbell, but also Nyheim Hines. Now, obviously, Hines has been shipped off, so we don't have to worry about him anymore. But the reasons that I was concerned, 1, pass volume. With an inexperienced rookie quarterback who didn't come into the league as a prolific college passer, the Colts were likely to lean on the running game more and less on the arm of the quarterback. While Matt Ryan was dropping back 40, 50, 60 times a game, Ehlinger was more likely to see the Marcus Mariota, Justin Fields treatment. Campbell was getting a lot of his production on volume. That's where he was having those fantasy relevant weeks, was because of the volume. And secondly, I was concerned that the more mobile Ehlinger would be more apt to take off and run when he got in trouble, rather than throw it underneath to a Campbell or a Hines like a Matt Ryan would. And as it turns out, in week 8, both concerns came to fruition in his first start. He only attempted 23 passes, and he ran 6 times. That's completely different from what we were getting with Matt Ryan, but it's exactly what we expected. And as a result, Paris Campbell and Nyheim Hines were each limited to 2 receptions. I have a hard time seeing any way that Paris Campbell cracks your lineup for as long as Sam Ehlinger is at quarterback. And that makes him safe to drop. Let's do one more buy. Then we'll get a couple more waiver wire claims before we get to your questions. The last buy that we're going to talk about is Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz got through week 8 healthy, and he appears to be in the clear after battling that nagging knee injury early in the season. He has Dak Prescott back, which will only help things. With the Cowboys failing to secure a wide receiver at the trade deadline, it's going to remain the CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz show as the top 2 options in the passing game. Schultz has been a consistent option when Prescott is in the lineup over the last 2 seasons, and then that has picked up and continued here in 2022 as well. At a position that is so hard to find reliable weekly starters in fantasy football, Dalton Schultz is a priority trade target here in week 9. All right, a couple more waiver wire claims, and then we'll get to your questions. So another ad is Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely, he played really well in Mark Andrews' absence in week 8, and that's after he flashed a little bit in training camp and preseason as well. And it sounds like the shoulder injury isn't too serious and won't keep Andrews sidelined for too long. Still, Likely is a priority ad in case Andrews sits in week 9, and you can stream him. And then what makes him a real priority is on top of that, Isaiah Likely could emerge as a usable option even with Andrews on the field, considering the team's current wide receiver landscape. Their wide receiver 1 right now, Devin Duvernay, Demarcus Robinson, James Prochet. It sounds like Rashad Bateman's going to be out for a while. He re-aggravated that foot injury. He's going to be out for a while. Why not move Andrews and Likely around the formation, one of them in line at tight end, others split out in the slot? Use Likely, use Andrews as wide receivers. One's playing tight end, one's playing wide receiver. They're your 2 most talented pass catchers at the moment for as long as Bateman's out. I think they're going to use Likely more even when Andrews is back. All right, last guy to add off the waiver wire, then we'll get to your questions, is Deion Jackson. When both Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines were out in week 5 and week 6, it was Deion Jackson who was targeted 14 times in those 2 games. And he caught all of his passes. That included a 10-target, 10-reception game against Jacksonville. With Hines shipped off to Buffalo, Jackson could emerge with a passing downs role in Indy. And then on top of that, it comes out today that Jonathan Taylor just re-aggravated his ankle injury. He's out of practice today. We don't know what his status is in week 9 and beyond. So Deion Jackson is go get him right now. And of course, I do want to say one more thing about Deion Jackson. As I discussed with Paris Campbell, the Deion Jackson role that he had weeks 5, week 6, it's not going to be the same. The role he's going to have now with Sam Ehlinger at quarterback is not going to be quite as appealing as it would have been with Matt Ryan. Still, especially with the Jonathan Taylor news, he's worth an ad. But that's the show. That's the show. If you're looking for more Week 9 content, head over to yardsperfantasy.com or download the Yards Per Fantasy app for articles, rankings, trade calculator, start, sit tool, and more. With everything you could possibly need. In the meantime, let's get to some of your questions. I know they've been rolling through here on TikTok and on YouTube. I saw a few come through. Let's get to these. And we'll take a few minutes answering questions. And then, like I said, if I don't get to your question, my rankings of yardsperfantasy.com, use our start sit tool, use all our resources there, articles. And I'll be back Saturday night as usual, answering all your questions strictly. The show is only for answering your questions, none of the other bullshit. All right, let's start with a couple on YouTube. We got Sean on YouTube. He's saying, what do you think about this? I send Aaron Jones and I receive Jalen Waddle and AJ Dillon. Yeah, I like it. I do. Aaron Jones coming off a big week. But his usage has been inconsistent, frustratingly inconsistent. And if you need the wide receiver, I think that's an excellent upgrade Now, don't expect to get a whole lot of A.J. Dillon. He's been a disappointment, but he does have excellent handcuff value as well. But I think Jones for Waddle is a pretty even deal. If you're looking to upgrade a wide receiver, you're good at running back. I like that one. I'm good with it. Sean also has another question here. He says, would you start DeAndre Carter or Terrace Marshall in the flex this week? Now, I do like Carter. Carter ran a ton of routes, had a ton of snaps before the bye week. Now it sounds like I think we should get Josh Palmer back this week, but Mike Williams is going to be out. Keenan Allen should be back to a more full normal role than what he had in that one game before the bye. I don't even know why they even bothered playing him. I think he played 4% of the snaps or something like that. Or 4% target share. I don't remember what it was. Something was 4%. He was barely involved. So I do like Carter, but we can't deny the usage of Terrace Marshall over the last few weeks. We talked about that earlier in the show. The snap share, target share, the route participation, that was all there in week 8, and it all had been rising. Came to a peak in week 8. I expect that to continue. Marshall almost had an even bigger game. He was this close to getting his feet down in the end zone for a touchdown. So while I do like Carter as a streamer this week, especially with all the buys, I like Terrace Marshall more. And that's where I would go this week. Terrace Marshall. It says, okay, I have Dalvin Cook, Kenneth Walker, Leonard Fournette, and hopefully Cordero Patterson coming back soon. Yeah, it sounds like they've opened up the return window for him. I saw that right before we went on the show here, so we'll have to get more news on that. But it sounds like maybe this week, maybe next week, we get Patterson back. So should I trade away Leonard Fournette for Jonathan Taylor and Chris Olave and hope that JT goes off later on? Yeah, at this point in the season, I really have very little interest in trying to actively buy Jonathan Taylor. We've seen with these ankle injuries in the past. We saw it with Saquon. We've seen it with others. Once a guy has an ankle sprain, especially a high ankle sprain, it lingers. They rush them back. They rush them back too soon. They re-aggravate it, or it just never fully heals properly. And it's an issue all the way through the season. And that's what we're already seeing with Jonathan Taylor. We're already seeing that. Taylor just re-aggravated that ankle. He's out of practice today. Who knows how long he's going to be out this time? He may be fine. He may end up playing this week. I don't know. We have to get more information. But I have zero interest in trying to acquire Jonathan Taylor. The offense is terrible. The offensive line is terrible. He hasn't been this elite producer that he was last year. I have zero interest in buying Jonathan Taylor, so I would say no to that. Who should I start? Pick 2, full PPR. Ramondre Stevenson, Deontay Foreman, Khalil Herbert, David Montgomery, Jamal Williams. So we're picking 2 of these guys in PPR. Well, we're easily going Ramondre. He's a must start every week. I think he's a borderline RB1 every week rest of the season. So after that, it's Foreman, Herbert, Montgomery, Jamal Williams. And actually, I think we flip Montgomery and Herbert. Otherwise, that's the way I'd rank them. So I'd say Foreman. Foreman would be the other guy I would go with. I just got a trade request. I'd give up Aaron Jones for DeAndre Swift and Adam Thielen. PPR. Should I do it? My other running back is Derrick Henry. My wide receivers are Pittman, Curtis Samuel, and Cortland Sutton. Yeah, I think I would do that because I think, in my eyes, Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift rest of the season are pretty much equal. So if you're getting a wide receiver 3, a potential starting wide receiver for you on top of it, I think you do it. Now, we do have to be aware of Dan Campbell did make some comments after the game in week 8, saying something to the effect of maybe DeAndre Swift wasn't quite ready to take as much of a workload as he had. So they may have to scale that back for a couple more weeks before he's a full go. But I still think Swift, Jones, rest of season are pretty much equal. Swift has already had his bye week, so you're good there. Yeah, that's a pretty good deal. I think I would do that. It's a fair deal. Would you trade away Saquon Barkley for Patterson and Devontae Adams? No, absolutely not. Nope. Barkley is the RB1. He's gonna win you some leagues if he stays healthy. Patterson's a fine play when he's back. He's a fine play. He's fine. He'll start for you. RB2 flex play. Devontae Adams is not giving you the elite production that he's given us in the past. So I think you're overvaluing Devontae Adams here, overvaluing Patterson. You're undervaluing Barkley. This is easily Saquon Barkley from him. Gus or Michael Carter, rest of the season, half PPR. So this one's tough because Gus Edwards is hurt. I don't expect him to play this week. Honestly, it might be a couple weeks. I think they're on a bye next week, if I remember correctly. Maybe I'm wrong there. But it's a couple weeks. I think it's gonna be a couple weeks for Gus with that hamstring. But that's another thing we have to monitor throughout the week. We'll get more information, practice reports, and so forth. Still a little too early to say on that. Michael Carter, I love his involvement in the passing game. He's going to get opportunities. I think he had a 17% target share against the Patriots. But then we have the lingering James Robinson problem. How much do the Jets really plan and want to get James Robinson involved in that offense? So that's what my concern is. Are they going to try to get him in that full Breece Hall role? Obviously, he's no Breece Hall, but they're going to try to get into that role. And then Michael Carter is, I don't know. But then we have also in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson runs in for the touchdowns. Kenyon Drake is still there. J.K. Dobbins, I expect he'll be back at some point. So it's tough. It's close. I think I might go Michael Carter. I think I'm a little bit more comfortable with Michael Carter's role as at least a pass catcher, at least give you some PPR points. I know it's half PPR, but I think I'd lean Michael Carter right now. If Gus was healthy, I'd probably say Gus, but I'm concerned about Gus. Jacob's asking, Brandon Cooks didn't practice today due to personal reasons. He's obviously upset. Could you see Brandon Cooks being released? If they were going to release him, I think they would have just found a way to trade him. Eat some of his salary, whatever it took, get something in return. But there are some rumors that he's looking to get released, but we don't know. If I had to bet, I would say no. I would say he's probably not going to be released. I don't know his full contract details, but there's something about next year, 18 million. I don't know. There's something there which might make it hard for them to release him. We would have to dive into the contract a little bit closer. If I had to money on the table, I would say no. Should I trade away Kenneth Walker and Chris Godwin for Justin Jefferson, or am I overpaying in PPR? Yeah, I think I'd prefer Walker and Godwin there. Walker, I think he's an RB1 rest of season. Godwin, high-end wide receiver 2. Of course, you got Justin Jefferson, who's a top 3 wide receiver, but yeah, I think I'd stick with what you have there, or at least get something more on top of Jefferson in return. If you can get it like a wide receiver 3 or something back, or an RB2, then maybe I'd consider it. Nick's asking, Tyler Algier or Jonathan Taylor? Well, if Jonathan Taylor plays, I think you're playing him over Algier. Complete split backfield in Atlanta. I know it was a better performance for Algier in week 8, but he's still splitting with Huntley. He's still splitting. I think Avery Williams is still involved a little bit there. And they just opened up the practice window, the return window for Cordero Patterson. He's going to be back. He could be back as early as this week. So, yeah, Jonathan Taylor would be my choice still. Should I trade Najee Harris and Tua Tagovailoa for Dalvin Cook, assuming it's a one-quarterback league? Hell yeah. If you can get Dalvin Cook for Najee Harris and a quarterback, hell yeah. It's over for Najee. It's over. It's over. Do I trade Kyle Pitts and Alan Lazard for Devontae Smith and James Conner? I'm thin at running back right now and planning on riding Dulcich at tight end. Pitts and Lazard for Devontae Smith and James Conner. I don't know if I want to go get James Conner. It's a fine deal. It's fine. Lazard's hurt. Conner's hurt. Pitts, we talked about early in the show, at the beginning of the show, he's a sell right now. So I am selling Kyle Pitts. Devontae Smith's inconsistent, but he does have Jalen Hurts as quarterback. He's going to have some good weeks. But he's going to be just as unpredictable which weeks are going to be good weeks, which weeks are going to be bad weeks, just as unpredictable as Kyle Pitts. So if I'm trading Kyle Pitts, I think we're going to reach a little bit higher. But it's a fun deal. I like your plan. I like your thinking there. Let's take a couple more from TikTok, and then we'll get out of here. Like I said, we have a show dedicated strictly to answering your questions for the whole hour plus on Saturday nights, and again Sundays right before kickoff. So should I drop? Oh, I lost that one. Sorry. Deebo Samuel and Foreman for Devontae Adams. Yeah, that's fine. But Devontae is not really someone I'm super excited to buy right now. Should I drop Brian Robinson for Gibson? I don't think you should have to drop Brian Robinson, but if Gibson is available on your waiver wire, yeah, go get him. Go get him because he's getting the passing game work in that offense right now. I know McKissick is still involved. But Antonio Gibson, he is far and away more talented than Brian Robinson and J.D. McKissick combined. I just wish they would use him. And they've been using him more in the passing game, which is awesome. So, should I trade Cooper Kupp and Jalen Waddle for Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins? No. Why? No. Is DJ Moore a sell high? I don't think so. We talked about DJ Moore during the show. If you're just tuning in, you missed it, obviously. I talked about DJ Moore as a buy. DJ Moore is a buy. I'm buying DJ Moore right now. All we needed was to switch a quarterback to PJ Walker. Elias on YouTube is asking, would you trade... Oh. Is that the same question I just got on here? No, it wasn't. Would you trade Cooper Kupp for DeAndre Hopkins and Chris Godwin? If I really need to go get another wide receiver, yes, I guess. Like if you have a glaring hole in your lineup and you need a 2-for-1 type of deal, yeah, trading away one, getting two, but otherwise, Cooper Kupp's the guy who's going to win you a week in the fantasy playoffs. That's going to make the difference between you winning the championship or not. So I'm probably not doing that deal unless I need an extra starter in my lineup. Even though even though you're getting a good return for him. I traded Jalen Hurts, Mixon, and Cortland Sutton for Tom Brady, Dameon Pierce, Deontay Foreman, Michael Pittman, and Gus Edwards. Yeah, okay. I hate giving up Hurts because those rushing quarterbacks, those dual threat quarterbacks this season are making a huge difference. The Josh Allens, Jalen Hurts, even Patrick Mahomes, these elite quarterbacks are making as big of a difference as they've ever made in fantasy football this year. So I don't like giving up Hurts. Yeah, I kind of like what you gave up more than what you got. All right, a couple more from TikTok and then we're done. Swift for Taylor. I think I'd rather have DeAndre Swift. This just in, Keenan Allen will most likely not play this week. You like Palmer? Oh, that's interesting. I haven't seen that. If that's true, yes. Palmer, absolutely streamable this week, as long as he's healthy, because I know he had some shit going on too. He had a couple of productive weeks, but now he's going to be without Keenan Allen and Michael Pittman. He might be the wide receiver 1. Yeah, I like Palmer, especially with all the bye weeks this week. Yeah, as far as that Hurts trade, I really think I'd rather keep the Hurts side. Week 9 flex: Josh Palmer, Antonio Gibson, Paris Campbell, or Brandon Cooks. I kind of like Gibson there. Do I trade Devontae and Patterson for Waddle? Yes, absolutely. Devontae Smith and Patterson for Waddle? Yes. Should I sell high on A.J. Brown and Swift? No. A.J. Brown's a stud. I don't think that. I think that's going to continue. No reason for it to not. Juju or DJ Moore this week? I'm going to go DJ Moore. Jonathan Taylor or Fournette? For Kenneth Walker or Etienne or Jacobs? I don't understand the question. There's too many ors. Is this ands or ors? Jonathan Taylor or Fournette for Kenneth Walker or Etienne or Jacobs? Makes no sense. Do I trade Devontae and Patterson for Waddle? We already answered that question. Yes. Aaron Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, Dalvin Cook, Jonathan Taylor, Miles Sanders. Which two should I start? Give me Ramondre. Let's check out the rankings because this is going to be close with these running backs. You can find my rankings at yardsperfantasy.com or just download the Yards Per app, pull up our rankings. So we're starting Ramondre, and we're going to start Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones against the Lions? Yes, sir. Thoughts on Justin Fields? My thoughts on Justin Fields, and we'll end with this. Justin Fields, they're starting to open it up a little bit. He's starting to look a little bit more competent as a passer. They just acquired Chase Claypool, which is going to help. He's running the ball. He's the light version of what we wanted Trey Lance to be this year. I think Justin Fields is borderline QB1 rest of the season. If he's on your waiver wire, he's still available in way too many leagues. Pick him up. He might be your starter rest of season. Anyway, we'll be back Saturday night, 9 o'clock, answering all your questions. and find all my stuff at yardsperfantasy.com. Download the Yards Per Fantasy app. We got a start sit tool. We have the most customizable trade calculator in the fantasy football industry. It's for redraft leagues. It's for free. You can update the, you can set the scoring settings. It's completely customizable to your league. Completely free. Download the Yards Per Fantasy app. Use our trade calculator. yardsperfantasy.com/trade-calculator. Links in the TikTok bio. I'll see you guys Saturday night. Thanks, guys.